I'm now stood on the amazing Clifton Aqueduct. It's a Grade 2 listed structure and it was opened in 1796. It carries the main line of the canal across the River Irwell. It's dry today, but it's a testimony to all those canal builders who built it all them years ago that it still stands to this day. Wonderful. I'm now stood in the dry bed of Clifton Aqueduct. This is a Grade 2 listed structure and it's been here since 1796. It's an amazing thing and it crosses the River Irwell high on its arches. Wonderful. Hiya John, I'm now in the old dry bed of Clifton Aqueduct. Here there used to be an ancient roving bridge that allowed the old boat horses to cross over the canal so they could continue up Fletcher's Canal or along the main line of Manchester, Bolton and Bury. It was a wonderful old bridge. Unfortunately the middle's been knocked out. You've only got the abutments either side to remind you what it used to look like. Amazing.
Pack Saddle Bridge, number 31, an arch of blue brick, carried the towpath of both Fletcher's Canal and the Manchester Bolton and Bury Canal across the latter. Sadly, it was partially demolished in 1966 and just the abutments of the bridge remain today. In this photograph we're looking towards a turning basin. If you would have gone straight on, you'd be going up Fletcher's Canal. If you did a sharp right under the old bridge there that you could see that took towpath over at Clifton Aqueduct, you'd be going across river and on towards Rhodes Lock. And this is another of my favourite photographs. And what you've got that boat there in foreground, and that's just about to make its way up Fletcher's Canal. Off to the left, you've got the Pack Saddle Bridge that took the towpath to over the side of Aqueduct. In the distance there, you've got the old 13 Arches Railway Viaduct. It's a splendid one, is this?
Hi John, as you can see we're still on Clifton Aqueduct. If you like to look down here, you'll notice you've got a groove cut into the stonework. What's special about this, if you look, you've got one bit of the groove going that way and you've got another groove going that way. What's special about this? Basically, from this point you could put a stop plank either from here over to that groove or from here over to that groove. So two grooves that side and one groove here, but interestingly in between the stop grooves you can make out where there used to be a paddle, and it's still in situ actually. You can just make out the wooden paddle in this stonework. If you put your stop planks in and you wanted to drain either side of the aqueduct, you just lift that paddle and then it'll drain, and then you could like do all your maintenance. Hey John, we've just come across Clifton Aqueduct that carries the main line of the canal across the River Irwell. At this point the canal goes sharp right and follows beside the River Irwell up to Giant Seat. It's an amazing section. Hiya Jan, I've now come across Clifton Aqueduct and I'm stood in a dry bed of the old canal. Behind me is a wash wall, and if you look you can see all that amazing stonework which is a prominent feature of this canal. It's simply fabulous and a credit to the stonemasons who made it all them years ago. We've just come across Clifton Aqueduct and I'm stood in a dry bed of the old canal. At this point you had a massive turning basin, and here the main line of the canal went off to my left on its way beside the river up to Giant Seat. It's been dry a long time here, hence all the vegetation, but I could almost swim in. Hiya John, I'm now in the bed of the old dry canal. Behind me is a wash wall. What's nice, you've got that lovely stone capping and you've had some modern brickwork which has been used to repair the bank. But it's amazing, isn't it? Like the water's gone, but you know, it's like you could just put it all back and this would be such an amazing place. What I'll do, I'll have a look up there and see what I can find. Amazing. I'm now stood in the bed of the old canal just after Clifton Aqueduct. It's been dry here for an awful long time. When it rains, water still collects in the old canal. It's a shame it can't rain a bit more, and we could fill it back up and boat on it again. Maybe one day. Hiya John, I'm now stood in the bed of the dry canal. We've left Clifton Aqueduct behind. I can see the old wash wall to my right curves off into the distance. Again, a nice bit of stone and some modern brickwork. Amazing. Hiya John, I'm now stood in the dry bed of the canal a little bit up from Clifton Aqueduct. To my right you can see the lovely stone wash walls of the canal, and at this point the canal is obstructed by a fence and then a sludge lagoon which has been built over its course. A shame. Hiya John, I'm now stood in the dry bed of the canal. Behind me is a sludge lagoon. Many years ago, when the canal had fallen into dereliction, it was decided to build a sewage works on this site. So what they did, they built big earth embankments and they stored all the sewage within them. So what you've got now is an obstruction of raw sewage. Wonderful. Hiya John, I'm now on the line of the derelict and infilled Manchester Bolton and Bury Canal. Many years ago, once the canals had fallen into dereliction at this point, it was decided to build a new motorway. The M60 motorway crosses behind me on an high embankment. Unfortunately, it not only obstructs the Manchester Bolton and Bury Canal, but also Fletcher's Canal, which can be found on the other side of the River Irwell. Many years ago, this section of canal, which is just below Rhodes Lock, burst because it's so close to the river there. As you can see, the breach was never repaired, so this section was then dry and became isolated from the rest of the canal.
And what we're looking at here, Steve?
Right John, we're on the former towpath, which is still a public right of way, and we're looking towards Rhodes Lock. If you look carefully, the path suddenly goes upwards, and that was the height of the lock chamber.
I've chucking it down today, Steve, isn't it?
It's absolutely bloody miserable, John. I can't believe I forgot my umbrella. What a pillock. As you can see, John, we found a milestone slightly buried beside Rhodes Lock.
Right, what we're looking at here, Steve?
What we're looking at, John, is Rhodes Lock, which is partly obscured by vegetation. Unfortunately, it's in North West Water Authority land, and we may have to find a sneaky way in just to have a look at it. But as you can see, that's the entrance to that lock, and there's some old wrought iron which used to be handrails so you didn't fall offside that lock chamber. Right John, we're on Old Footpath towpath just above Rhodes Lock. What we're going to try to do, the old lock, like I said, it's on North West Water Authority land, and we really want to like capture it, you know what I mean, because we've got ironwork and stonework. So we're going to be a little bit naughty here, just have a little trespass, but only in the name of heritage preservation.
and we didn't do this. We didn't, honestly. It was already like this, otherwise we wouldn't even be thinking about climbing over. Oh. No. So where are we now then, Steve?
We're actually in the Bury Canal, John. Like I say, it's owned by North West Water Ferry. You can see the old wash wall there. Beyond the fence is a towpath. We're just on the approach to Rhodes Lock. Good money there, John. As you can see, John, this is the approach, the actual lock. Amazing. As you can see, John, we've actually got the lock now. You can just make out that's where sluice would have been. Just behind them trees is where lock gate would have been. And this is the actual lock what we're on the side of Rhodes Lock. Amazing. Look at that, John, here. Base of the old paddle gear. There would have been like a finger here where you put your windlass on. Amazing. Look there, John. You've got the old sleeve. This is where the lock gate used to be, where it pivoted, and this collar kept the lock gate to the side of the stonework.
And this is a really nice photograph of Rhodes Lock, and what you especially like it is you've got one of the Manchester, Bolton and Bury Canal lock keepers' cottages right at the side of the lock. And that lock survives till this day. Unfortunately the cottage is gone and the lock's partially infilled because it's at the side of a disused sewage farm. What a tragedy indeed.
Hiya, John. I'm now stood inside the partly infilled chamber of Rhodes Lock. As you can see on my left, you've got some absolutely exquisite stonework. This is the most amazing lock and it's entirely complete. If you've got a JCB in here, it'll probably be cleared in a day. Absolutely amazing. Hi John, I'm now stood inside Rhodes Lock at the side of the old lock chamber. As you can see, the metal coin is still there, and amazingly you've got the remains of the wooden gates and the iron ties. Absolutely amazing. Hiya John, as you can see, I'm now standing at the foot of Rhodes Lock. If you look here, amazingly you've still got some cast iron railings in place. These would have been here so people on the lock side didn't fall into the water, which is where I'm standing. It's incredible that they survived to this day, and it's a credit to the people who built them.
In this photograph we're looking towards Rhodes Lock. This part of the canal was closed in 1941 and the length from here to Ringley was sold to Bolton Corporation in 1948 for sewage works improvements. And this is a splendid photograph and it shows Rhodes Lock, and if you look carefully, just sat on the balance beam there, it looks like the lock keeper, his wife and family. Just off to the right you've got the original Manchester, Bolton and Bury Canal lock keeper's cottage, and he would have lived in there. His job would have been to wet locks when boats come through, and beyond that you've got open countryside. It looks splendid, doesn't it? Yeah, if you go there today, it's a derelict sewage farm. Cottages gone. Instead of water, all canals filled in. It's such a shame. But maybe one day we can bring the lock and the canal back into use for pleasure boats.
Hiya John, we're now looking at the base of some old paddle gear, what would have wet the paddles at the side of Rhodes Lock. You can just make out the base. At some point, probably during the war effort, the top of it was chopped off, but it's still there to remind us what it used to be.
So where are we, Steve? What are we doing?
Yeah John, we're on the section between the M60 motorway and Kilcorby Bridge, heading towards Giant Seat. That way is Bolton and Bury. Where we've come is Salford. On a cold winter's day, those heritage explorers are exploring, doing what we do best. Hiya John, it's very overgrown now, but at this point there used to be the site of Kilcoby Bridge. As you can see, there's a rock formation there, and that were part of bridge support where arch used to be.
In this photograph, we're looking back at Kilcoby Bridge, and what's nice, you can see chap there, he's leading the horse, and on that would have been a long rope attached to a boat. So obviously back in day there were no engines, so the only way to move these old boats were by horse. You kind of feel sorry for it, don't you really? But I believe at intervals along the canal, horses were put in stables and then other horses were used to continue journey. And in this photograph, we're looking in the distance at Kilcoby Bridge. And this bridge used to cross the canal not far from Giant Seat. Sadly, the bridge is long since gone, and today it's just a modern embankment. This is a view looking from Kilcoby Bridge towards Giant Seat. What's nice about it, canal's in water, and on your right there you can see a boat, which is lovely. A couple of people on towpath. It looks quite an idyllic scene. Sadly, if you went to this spot today, where water would be, basically it's completely overgrown with trees and vegetation, well on left, what should be towpath, is now a tarmac access road that takes you to the old Giant Seat Garden Centre.
As you can see John, when you've got a derelict canal, unscrupulous people come and tip all the rubbish instead of taking it to the tip, and it becomes an eyesore. If water were back in canal and boats were using it, that won't happen. As you can see John, at this point, canal used to be crossing road. You never believe it John, but we're about to enter Ulbedet Canal. We'll have a look.
Whereabouts are we, Steve?
We're just beyond Kilcoby Bridge John, heading towards Giant Seat.
Was this right at the side of the canal then,
Yeah,
this?
the bridge was sort of built into it. On the photograph I've got it shows it, and then the bridge.
These bits of the side of the canal then, or bits of the bridge?
Look at that stonework. It's almost like it was dressed, you know, when you... A bit of water canal going.
It's a while since we've seen that.
I don't think we should go any farther this way now, John. So as you can see, what used to be a canal, still holding a bit of water. All this undergrowth is where water used to be. Other side of that mound, that wet towpath where the road now is. Hi John, we're now on a section of canal between Kilcoby Bridge and Giant Seat. The building behind me was formerly Margaret Barlow's tea gardens. There used to be a really distinctive monkey puzzle tree in the garden which is now gone. Many years ago, all the people from Salford used to have day trips, used to get into box boats, float up here, tie up here where his towpath used to be, and go and have teas in there. Once they'd done that, they go back to Salford and they're happy. Now a garden centre. As you can see John, it looks like a road, doesn't it? Well, the road is actually the course of that towpath. A long time ago, North West Water turned the towpath into a road so they could gain access to the sewage farm near Rhodes Lock. The watered section literally is where the grass starts. Everything on the right should be water. That's where boats were. And the road would have been towpath. Nice spot here. Bit of water, a few boats, we can do it again. Extremely old them slates John. Original canal building beside that towpath. You find milestones in most unusual places. Again, this one had been on the towpath, but now it's hid in the hedge. We're entrance to the garden centre. As you can see John, underneath all that vegetation is parapet of the old bridge that crossed the canal You go to the right, you get to Giant Seat House. It was formerly the headquarters of the Agecroft Rowing Club.
What's that bridge called? Giant Seat Bridge, you
I
said?
believe it's Giant Seat Bridge, John. As you can see, John, that's Giant Seat House. It was formerly the headquarters of the Agecroft Rowing Club. As you can see, John, Giant Seat is the only surviving lockkeeper's cottage. There's a lock at front of this cottage which is now filled in, and it's been extended in its life to make it a bit bigger. Long time ago it was owned by a Manchester, Bolton and Bury Canal Society member, a guy called Neville Bryan, who we're quite friendly with.
And here you can see the upper lock at Giant Seat, and to the right you've got the original lockkeeper's cottage. Well, that cottage survives till this day, but sadly it's lost a bit of its character because it's been extended. What I like about this photograph, to the left under that footbridge and at the side of that lock you had a bit of a private canal arm where boats could unload it, unload it, etc. It's nice to see it. Well, if you went there today, all water's been replaced with grass, but I suppose the cottage survives, so that's progress, I suppose.
We're walking along the towpath now, Steve.
Yeah, we're back on the old towpath, John. To the left is Ringley sewage farm. In summer it's certainly off down here.
And is this the canal here? Is it filled in, is it? Oh.
All this land here, John, used to be the water canal, filled in many years ago, obviously overgrown with trees, but the public right away still follows the towpath. As you can see, John, and all the undergrowth, you can see old copings, stone edges. Towpath at this point has been narrowed. Obviously this fence has been put in, so everything to our right would have been in water. As you can see, John, what happens when derelict canals get neglected? This tree's obviously fallen over, it's blocking footpath now. We've got to scramble under there in the mud to get past these chopping down. As you can see, John, there's the old stone copings again, with restricted towpath on the left, and all the water should be on the right where vegetation is.
Whereabouts are we, Steve?
Hi, John, we're still on the canal towpath just. We're on the section between Giant Seat Lock House and Ringley Village.
And plenty of sewage in the sewage farm.
I can't breathe, it's awful and it stinks. As you can see, John, since the canal's been closed, a few roads now cross it. It's only really an access track to like a house or a farm. But if the canal's reinstated, we need a new bridge. At this point, John, you turn water canal in a bit of a land drain to get rid of water. If you look really closely, you can see old edges, old canal copings, and obviously we're on towpath. As you can see, John, it's an old spring. Originally all that water would have flowed into the canal. Now it's just flowing into the land drain, which has been constructed within it. As you can see, John, there's a canal side building along this section. When the canal was working, it would have transported all its raw materials by canal from here. These metal things are wrought iron ties, Obviously as the years go by, buildings get older and they use these ties to support the walls. As you can see, John, in the distance is St Saviour's Church at Ringley, in a very picturesque setting right beside canal. Hiya John, as you can see along this section you've got the odd pylon which has been built on the course of the infill canal. When it comes to restoring this section it'll make life that bit more difficult. One possible way is to realign the canal and float through its legs. We'll see. As you can see John, on this section you've got some of the old stone slab walling which marks the boundary at church. As you can see John, we've finally arrived at Bingley village. Still stood on the towpath, the infill canals to my left and the Horseshoe public house are sort of taken over at towpath with their car parking. At this point the canal is obstructed by the main road, just requires a bridge. As you can see John, in Bingley village beside the canal is the Horseshoe pub. In olden days the old boatmen used to go in there and slake the fish. I'm sure we'll be in there later on.